Royal Enfield Bullet Trials 500 motorcycle review. So real fast, before we dive into today's video, I need to give a huge thank you and shout out to America's Motorsports Madison, Tennessee for providing the motorcycle for this video. Thank you. What's up everyone, it's Alex. So I asked if you guys wanted me to go do a ride and review on the Bullet Trials 500 that they came out with. You guys said yes, so here we are. Royal Enfield Bullet Trials 500. What do we got here? Real quick, you like the video, if you're new here, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, because it tells me what kind of content you guys like so I can keep making that for you guys. So the Royal Enfield Bullet Trials 500, what do we got here? Well, we've got the same just under 500cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine from the Classic 500 and the Bullet 500. Putting out somewhere in the neighborhood of 27-ish horsepower, and most places don't like to talk about the torque, so your guess is as good as mine. Married up to basically the same 5-speed transmission. They may have tweaked it a little bit, but in riding it around, it felt about the same as the 5-speed transmission on like the Classic 500. Chain final drive. Single disc brakes front and rear. We do have ABS clickers, and the bike does have an ABS light, so I'm guessing it has ABS, although I'm not really sure why you would bother putting ABS on a 500cc single that's this small and this light and is made for trials, but hey, we appear to have ABS. Same external style rear shocks as like the Classic or anything would have. Basically the entire motorcycle is set up just like a Royal Enfield Classic 500 would be, with a few small differences that have been changed here and there, just to do the Trials replica thing. And I want to make that very clear very quickly. I'm sure some people could take this bike and do a Classic Trials series against Classic Trials bikes with it, but this is definitely made to be a Trials replica motorcycle for the road, maybe a little bit of off-roading stuff in kind of a classic sense, but this is definitely not set up for and is not capable enough to be a really hardcore off-road motorcycle or to compete with a modern Trials bike whatsoever. It says right on it, Bullet Trials Works Replica. So this is meant to be a Trials replica, and I actually think it works even more towards the like scrambler replica kind of a deal, because see, they did like some Barkbuster type handguard style things on it. They did a front grating over the headlight. They went with some like retro-y fork gators, and they did the more upswept scrambler style exhaust on it. And as you can see, obviously they went with a little bit more off-road biased tires, not true off-road tires, but much more of like a dual sport style tire. Stripped down the back and did like a skeletal frame deal with just a rack instead of doing a rear fender. So they went with more of an off-road, old school enduro, scrambler styling on it. I think it may have been better for marketing and everything to have called it the Bullet Scrambler instead of the Bullet 500 Trials, because it seems to me much more scramblerish. It's not as stripped down and low weight as you would expect from a Trials bike. Even a Classic Trials bike, they usually would strip these way down, put way smaller, skinnier tanks on them, and make them as light as possible for running true trials. So to me, it's actually more like a scrambler variant of the Bullet 500. And if you're going to run it off-road, that's probably what it's going to be better for. I'm sure I'm going to get some hatred in the comments saying, oh, I could ride this thing Trials. I'm sure you could, but it's really not made for that. After riding it, what this really is this is a Classic 500 single, like the Classic 500, that's just been set up visually and everything in more of a scrambler or Trials setup. So it's still much better as a road bike. You can hit some dirt, you can hit some gravel, you can do some classic retro vintagey enduro style riding. I just don't think it's light enough or set up well enough or have the ground clearance or anything to actually ride Trials on it. So it's cool, but I don't think it would actually be useful for a trial setup, more of a retro scrambler kind of a setup, and more just a really cool novelty than anything else. The other problem with this motorcycle, and the reason it hasn't sold very well so far, at least in the US, comes in the price tag. This thing has an MSRP of like $57.99, and for that kind of money, you can get a 650 Interceptor. So for the road and everything, why would you buy a Classic 500 single in a scrambler setup when for the same money you could just get a 650 Interceptor, and if you really like scramblers, you could just deck out your Interceptor to be a scrambler. So while I do think it's cool, I think it's really, really pretty, I really like the looks of this motorcycle, I definitely don't think it's that usable even as a classic scrambler. It's definitely just a visual styling thing to have that Scrambler Trials look. And I definitely think, at least for US anyway, it's too expensive for the money, whereas you could get classic 500s easily for $1,000 or $2,000 less than that, and you can get a 650 Interceptor for the same money. So while my overall review is positive in that it is a cool, enjoyable motorcycle for what it is, for being a 500 single, for being light, for being just fun, classic, all that kind of stuff, and having the Kickstarter and everything, all that kind of classic type stuff, I don't think it's usable as a trials bike, at least not in the modern sense at all. Even as a classic trials bike, I think it's going to struggle a little bit. Shoot me if you want to. And I think it's too expensive for what it is, at least in the US market. It may be cheaper somewhere else, but for what it is here, it's definitely too expensive for what it is. So that's it, guys. That's my honest review. I did like it, but I think Royal Enfield missed the mark on the price tag a little bit. And if you're going to go for the Scrambler, kind of like that, or even Trials type thing, it probably would have been better to market it as a Bullet Scrambler versus a Bullet Trials. Just personal opinion, though. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope that was helpful. As always, have a great day. Ride safe. I'm Alex. Peace.